Welcome back. We are getting the results of the Kevin Spacey sexual assault trial. The jury returning their verdicts on those 9 charges against him. We have a number of counts coming into us. It's happening as we speak. He has been found not guilty on count 4, which is a sexual assault of grabbing and squeezing the genitals of his driver. Not guilty of count 5, which was sexual assault, touching that same driver, his buttocks over his clothing. He's been found not guilty of count 6, the same driver causing a person to engage in sexual activity without consent. Count 7, this was the count where Elton John was a key witness in defending against this count. He's been found not guilty of sexual assault. And count 8, this was alleged to have happened at the charity event at the Met Gala. He's been found not guilty of that. Not guilty of counts 9, 10, 11 and 12. So Kevin Spacey found not guilty in all charges against him in this trial that was taking place at Southwark Crown Court. Let's go to our arts and entertainment correspondent, Katie Spencer, who's been following this for us. And Katie, Kevin Spacey facing 9 charges made against him by 4 different men, found not guilty today.
Yes, after the jury deliberating for 12 hours and 26 minutes, the jury was taken in front of the judge about an hour ago and asked whether they could reach a unanimous verdict in this case, and the jury said no, they couldn't, so they were directed that they could now reach a majority decision of 10-2 would have to be the ruling, and within less than an hour they've come back with this, not guilty on all of the 9 counts that he was now facing. It's a case that's taken about a year to come to trial, that's generated huge media attention, and Kevin Spacey throughout this case has maintained his innocence. Of the 4 cases, we had an incident and a man that was making claims that on a number of occasions had driven with him. He had alleged that on more than 12 occasions Kevin Spacey had groped him or grabbed him inappropriately. Kevin Spacey argued back in that case that he felt that the man was mutually flirtatious with him, and he was actually very upset that this man had gone to the police, and he, in a number of these claims brought by men, claimed that they were motivated by money or wanting to get attention from the press. One of the other cases involved a man that Kevin Spacey met at a pub close to his countryside home. He and a group of friends arranged to go back to the actor's house. They ended up on their own in a corridor. He said Kevin Spacey then groped him by his genitals. Kevin Spacey described that encounter as being a clumsy flirtation, and as soon as the man said that he wasn't interested, Kevin Spacey walked away. Another of the claims that is being made, or that was being made and that has proven not guilty in the jury's eyes, was to do with an encounter that happened at a rehearsal for a fundraiser event where Kevin Spacey, it was alleged by one of the witnesses, had backstage at this fundraiser groped him. Kevin Spacey said he had no recollection of even meeting this man. And the final one involved a man who was an aspiring actor who was looking for mentorship, and Kevin Spacey invited him for a drink, and then the man alleged that he went back to Kevin Spacey's flat and woke up to find him performing a sex act. On all of these charges, Kevin Spacey by the jury has been found not guilty, and I think really the questions will be raised really about for the CPS on how wise it was perhaps in their eyes to bring these cases. For Kevin Spacey, of course, it's been hugely disrupted for his career. His reputation has been in tatters. He hasn't been able to get work. It is in fact today his birthday as well, so no doubt we'll be hearing from him as he comes out the front here after a year of not being able to talk about this case. He will now, I would imagine, want to put the record straight and explain how this last year has been for him.
Katie, yes, thank you. We're just hearing Kevin Spacey nodded to the jury as he left court. He was crying and wiping the tears away with a tissue, clearly emotional, after those not guilty verdicts came in. The judge addressed the jury, saying they must have felt like they were in a goldfish bowl due to the level of attention that this case at Southwark Crown Court attracted. Spacey thanked the court guard in a hushed voice as he left, and he was patted on the back by his team and thanked the court clerk. I mean, that's a valid point the judge made, isn't it, Katie? You know, the jury in this case, the eyes of the world were on Southwark Crown Court.
Absolutely, yeah, and by all accounts, from what we're getting from inside, it has been hugely emotional. Throughout this, I have to say, we've seen Kevin Spacey walk in here pretty much every day. He's been hours and hours early ahead of the time that he's needed to be. We've heard from his press team before this all started that in his eyes, he couldn't wait for this to get underway because he's had to have a year worth of not being able to tell his side of the story, and for him this is about setting the record straight. From our people that are inside at the moment, what we're being told is Spacey has been in tears apparently, according to what's going on. He's been incredibly controlled throughout this, hasn't shown any emotion, as we were all sort of going in and out as various sort of tannoy announcements were made over the last couple of days to inform us on what was happening. He throughout hasn't really shown any emotion, but clearly that he's been in tears inside, wiping his face with a tissue and looking incredibly emotional. It does give you an indication really of the weight of pressure he's felt under really in terms of this. We're told he has left the courtroom now, so it might be that he comes out in the next few minutes, and obviously if he does, we will endeavour to bring that to you as soon as we can.
Hearing that Kevin Spacey has left the courtroom from a side entrance to avoid the press. So we may not see him. We've got pictures of him arriving here at court. As he said, he's not been able to tell his story for, since this began. And it may be that he does address the issue in an interview at a later date. Katie, stay with us. Just going to recap to those just joining us what has happened within the last few minutes. The actor, the Oscar award-winning actor Kevin Spacey, has been found not guilty today at Southern Crown Court by a jury. He faced 9 charges relating to sexual assault, the accusations made by 4 different men, but a jury today finding him not guilty on all counts. Kevin Spacey not guilty of sexually assaulting 4 men in allegations dating back to 2001 following the trial and the jury verdicts at Southern Crown Court. It is 3 o'clock. If you're just joining us, you're looking at pictures of Kevin Spacey from earlier today as he entered Southwark Crown Court in London as the jury returned its verdict of not guilty on a number of counts relating to sexual assault allegations made against him by 4 different men. Our arts and entertainment correspondent Katie Spencer has been following this story from the start. Katie, it's worth just reminding people how this all began.
Yeah, of course. For the last year, Kevin Spacey has been waiting for this to come to trial. So apologies, I just keep looking over my shoulder in case anyone does come out. But we believe Kevin Spacey has actually left via a side exit. But yeah, for the last year, Kevin Spacey has been under a huge amount of press attention whenever he's made court appearances in relation to this, and of course hasn't been able to put his side of the story across until this actually came to trial last month. And it has taken the jury 12 hours and 26 minutes to reach their verdict. Around about an hour ago, they were asked whether or not they could reach a majority verdict, a unanimous verdict on this, and they said to the judge that's leading this that they could not come to that conclusion. So then they were directed about an hour ago to reach a majority verdict of 10 of which the 10 of the jurors could agree on, and within less than an hour they've come back with this result, not guilty on all of the 9 counts that he's faced. Should we just give you a bit more detail of what those counts involved? So 4 of those counts involved someone that drove regularly with Kevin Spacey. So on a number of occasions they were having to go to events or parties, and he said on at least 12 occasions this person that was doing the driving said that Kevin Spacey would always sit in the front with him, would lean his head on his shoulder and try to grope or grab him or take the man's arm and put it on himself. Now, Kevin Spacey, in his defence, argued that he had actually there'd been a mutual flirtation there, and that the man's dates didn't quite ring true. We heard, of course, as part of this case, Elton John was even called to give evidence and confirm whether or not in a certain year they'd driven to the Elton John party. One of the claims this driver made, in fact, related to going to a party at Elton's house, and he said that he was grabbed so viciously by Kevin Spacey that he almost drove off the road. And in that case, Kevin Spacey said he wouldn't have done that. They were mutually flirtatious, the pair of them, and in that case, it has been found not guilty. Now, another of these cases involved a man that Kevin Spacey met at a pub next to his countryside home, and in that case, the man in question had met with a number of his friends, Kevin Spacey, at the pub. Kevin had suggested they all go back to his house, and then when they were at the house, Mr. Spacey managed to get this man on his own in a corridor. They ended up on their own, and he, in Kevin Spacey's words, made a clumsy pass at this man. Now, the man said it left him so shaken up that he ended up ringing his dad in tears and going home in the middle of the night. Again, the jury has found not guilty on that case, that Kevin Spacey did nothing wrong. One of the other cases involved a man who was at a rehearsal for a charity event that Kevin Spacey was involved in. They were backstage at that event when the man alleged that Kevin Spacey had made a grab at his genitals. Kevin Spacey said he had no recollection of this going on, and a number of witnesses were brought on because the man in question had said that Kevin Spacey had smelt drunk. Witnesses were brought forward to say no, he wasn't drunk. And then the final case involved an aspiring actor who had actually written to Kevin Spacey's people with a request that Kevin Spacey be a mentor and give him some advice on breaking into the industry. He said he was called by Kevin Spacey, asked out for a drink. They ended up, after a few drinks, back at Kevin Spacey's house, and he woke up and Kevin Spacey was performing a sex act on him. He said, the man in question said that he suspected that Kevin Spacey had drugged his drink, and that in retrospect he now felt that the incident was rape. Now, Kevin Spacey said that it had been a mutual flirtation, and after they'd had sex, he basically said that he realised that the man had felt quite uncomfortable and rushed out, and he'd phoned him a number of times to make sure he was okay. Again, in that case, the jury have found in Kevin Spacey's favour and said that he is not guilty. So after a year of just huge media scrutiny, I mean, you can't see the cameras that are around me. Every single day there have been 20, 30 photographers here to get Kevin Spacey turning up for court. There's a huge bank of broadcast crews that we've got here in case Kevin Spacey wants to come out and talk to us. And for a year, of course, since these charges have been brought and this has come to court, he hasn't been able to say anything on this. It's only since he's been called and to give his own evidence that we've actually heard his version of events, which basically boiled down to, he said these men were either lying or out to make money, or had even invented their stories. And the jury, after 12 hours and 26 minutes, have found in Kevin Spacey's favour not guilty on all of the 9 counts that he faced.
Katie, thank you. Katie Spencer, they're outside Southwark Crown Court in front of a bank of microphones because we are expecting a statement, perhaps not from Kevin Spacey, but perhaps from his legal team. If that happens, we'll return to Katie in Southwark Crown Court when it does. In the meantime, let's bring in media lawyer Mark Stevens, who's standing by to react to this. Mark, your reaction to this verdict?
Well, I think we've had the full trial now. All the evidence that the prosecution and these men wanted to bring has been brought, and Kevin Spacey has been found guilty, not guilty, by a majority of the jurors, and therefore he leaves the court with no stain on his character. And of course, we heard in the middle of the trial about how he felt he'd been cancelled by Hollywood following these allegations, and I assume he'll be looking to pick up his career again from where he left off.
Yes, Kevin Spacey found not guilty today on all 9 charges of sexual assault made by 4 different men. And Mark, you touched on that there, and Katie Spencer.
This was a case where the prosecution, I think, wanted to be sure that, you know, they had the numbers, but the defence ran a line which was really around, this wasn't about numbers, this was about exceptionalism for celebrity. And as a consequence, the jury seemed to have accepted that defence. And in those circumstances, as we say, Kevin Spacey walks free like a newborn lamb with no stain on his character whatsoever.
Yeah, all 4 of Kevin Spacey's accusers are entitled to lifelong anonymity under the law. Kevin Spacey, though, he detailed during that trial about the effect that these allegations and indeed charges had had on his life, not just his mental health, but on his career. He was saying, you know, people assume I'm a wealthy man because I'm an Oscar winner, but most of my money has gone on legal fees over the last year. This is a man who will now want to rebuild a career, surely, because he has been shunned by Hollywood. He's made a number of smaller films, but he's nowhere near enjoyed the height of the success he had before all of this came into the public domain.
Well, I think that's right. And we will have expected him to have spent between 2 and 3 million on his legal team in mounting this defence. This has been a very long trial, and it's, of course, a long time coming. But going back to the beginning where you started, of course, these allegations came perhaps at the height of the Me Too challenges which Hollywood had. And as a consequence, nobody could be seen to be associating with someone who's even accused of this kind of sexual wrongdoing that he's just been cleared of. And so as a consequence, out of an abundance of caution, obviously the studios have essentially dropped him. And now there doesn't seem to be any purpose of that. And I think that the acquittals will go some way to restoring his earning potential.
Mark, just give us an idea of how difficult it is to run a trial like this, to see it through to its conclusion, because you have one of the most famous actors in the world turning up to Southwark Crown Court every day, you know, for the past month. This has been going on for a year. The judge said to the jury, you know, you've been living in a goldfish bowl while this has been going on. How difficult are these trials involving such high-profile people when the stakes are just as high?
They're very, very difficult. And in fact, my office is right next to the court. And I used to see him and others going into the court most mornings. It is, of course, when you're doing one of these high-profile cases, extremely complex, not just because of the factual matrix of the case and the law. We're used to dealing with that. The challenge is always around the microscopic scrutiny that is on all of the participants. And I think it's a great credit to everybody, the prosecutor, the judge, the jury, and all of the witnesses, that they have managed to give clear and cogent evidence throughout this trial. And there hasn't been a kind of sensationalized reporting around it. But there has been acute analysis of the evidence that's been given in court. It's been discussed. Of course, the jury won't have been allowed to look at that. But that does mean that any mistakes that might have been made or could have been made would have been magnified and amplified in the media and on socials. So there is a much greater pressure. And of course, in this particular case, not only is he a celebrity, and so you have that additional burden in addition to the problems of representing someone in a case as complex and challenging as this, but you also know that this is potentially career-ending, if not career-limiting, for the defendant. So there's an awful lot of burden on everybody. Everybody in the sort of civic process has their own suite of responsibilities. And I think it's the enormous credit of everyone that there's been very little, if any, criticism of anyone involved in this case.
Mark Stevens, good of you to jump on for immediate reaction to that news that the Oscar award-winning actor Kevin Spacey has been found not guilty of all charges relating to sexual assault against 4 men. That's the media lawyer, Mark Stevens, just reacting to that news. We can return to Southwark Crown Court. Our arts and entertainment correspondent Katie Spencer has been following events from there for us this afternoon. Katie, what happens next? I'm talking about what happens outside court next. You're in front of a bank of microphones. We may get a statement, but also, in wider terms, Kevin Spacey, a man who in court admitted that his career had virtually been ended by what we've seen unfold there.
That's what you have to think, just how hugely damaging the last few years has been for Kevin Spacey and his career. These claims that have been made have been absolutely toxic in terms of his reputation, in terms of him being able to get work. So I think that's why perhaps a lot of us were thinking that Kevin Spacey would want to come out and talk to us. We've been informed that it is possible, we think, that he has gone out of a different exit, but whether or not anyone from his team will come back and talk to us and just express how this whole process has been for Kevin Spacey. Because look, we've known from the last few weeks since this case has got underway, he has been here 2-3 hours early. As soon as the court has opened, he has wanted to be here he has, through his people, said in order to clear his name. In court, they spoke about how he has been doggedly going through his old records, his old emails, his old notes, so he can prove his innocence in this case. And after 12 hours, 26 minutes of the jury deliberating, they reached this not guilty verdict on all 9 counts. When you think about what Kevin Spacey has been through over the last few years, it is a huge, huge, toxic experience that it has been for this actor. Let's just give you a bit of the background right now.
Kevin, would you just do one question for Sky?
From Oscar winner to outcast, a London jury sealing the fate of the darling of Hollywood no more. My world exploded, Kevin Spacey told jurors as he gave evidence during his sexual assault trial. There was a rush to judgment, and before the first question was asked or answered, I lost everything in a matter of days. Action! Jurors had to decide whether he was telling the truth or if it was simply another brilliant performance. Their not guilty verdict showing they believed what the actor had to say. From Sir Elton John being called to give evidence to tales of Spacey teaching Dame Judi Dench ping pong, a strange and surreal world of celebrity at the centre of this trial. At its core, 2 sides to the story. Kevin Spacey was either, as the defence put it, a hard-working actor and a charming flirt who, after rising to the top, wanted to help others. Or, as the prosecution claimed, a sexual bully who got off on making men feel uncomfortable, using his fame to assault, grab, grope and behave with impunity.
The accusations and the noise that surrounded this, even before it got to court, was incredibly damaging for him.
The timing of the claims mostly coincided with Spacey's 11-year tenure as artistic director at the Old Vic. Signing him up had been quite the coup.
It's not film, it's not television, it's live. And for me, I'm a theater rat, so for me it is the greatest form of expression.
I interviewed Spacey in 2006. He was very much putting on an air of confidence. He wanted to be seen as sort of an ordinary artistic director, not a big Hollywood star.
Turning the theatre's fortunes around and winning awards to boot. But just a few years after his grand departure, in 2017, at the height of the Me Too movement, less flattering accounts of that time started to emerge.
The Old Vic apologises wholeheartedly to the people who told us that they've been affected.
It started after American actor Anthony Rapp claimed when he was 14 and working on Broadway, Spacey, then 26, made drunken sexual advances. While a civil court in the US last year found in Spacey's favour, that initial moment caused a domino effect of claims. Sacked from his hit show House of Cards for allegedly sexually harassing crew members, Spacey's production companies were ordered to pay back almost $31 million in losses to producers. Aside from turning up at obscure film festivals, work dried up and he faced mounting legal bills, stuck in limbo, until police eventually charged him last year in connection with claims made by 4 men. Photographers fighting to get a shot for very different reasons. His trial taking a year to get underway when the detail of the allegations eventually became public.
Morning, Mr. Spacey.
One man who'd approached Spacey for career mentorship claimed he'd ended up passing out at the actor's flat after being invited out by him for late-night drinks around Waterloo, claiming Spacey drugged him and he woke up to find the actor performing a sex act on him, to which Spacey's team argued he'd shared an intimate but consensual moment with the man. Another victim, a driver, claimed he was assaulted more than 10 times by Spacey over the course of 4 years. In one instance, on the way to a showbiz party, he said the actor grabbed his genitals so hard he almost drove off the road. Spacey's team questioned the dates, picking apart the finer details, with Spacey saying he felt crushed that the man, someone he considered a friend, had gone to the police. They'd been mutually flirtatious, he said, and any touching wasn't violent, but romantic in his eyes. Welcoming the chance, he said, to finally set the record straight in a court of law. Spacey told the jury the case against him was weak. Giving evidence for around a day and a half, from Spacey, there were tears as he spoke of losing everything. And there was humour when he admitted feeling lonely, asked if he'd reached out to people to ease the burden. There was laughter in the court as he said, sure, welcome to life. But there was nothing funny about the claims he faced. His defence, that accusers were either lying to get money, had their facts wrong, or were confused about how to process their attraction to him. The star doggedly digging through old records, boxes of photos, and any evidence that could disprove the claims.
The question is, does this verdict allow Kevin Spacey to be Kevin Spacey, to be that iconic actor who has oodles of talent, to regain his position as one of the A-listers of Hollywood? Sadly not. We live in a corporate world now, and raising money, getting insurance, all those other factors that exist on social media, where mainstream media has not got the same power. He will always, I'm afraid, have to suffer despite the fact that he's been proved innocent.
His glittering acting career tarnished by claims that weren't proven to be true. In debt, having had little work, it's likely the star will be hoping a not guilty verdict can finally signal his Hollywood return. Katie Spencer, Sky News.
Katie Spencer with the background to the culmination of this story, which finds the Oscar award-winning actor Kevin Spacey found not guilty on all 9 counts of sex offences at Southwark Crown Court this afternoon. Allegations made against him by 4 different men. Kevin Spacey today not guilty of all charges. Let's bring in now celebrity lawyer Christopher Melcher, who joins us from the US. Mr. Melcher, thank you so much for coming on to react to this story. Your initial reaction to the jury's verdict this afternoon?
Well, it's an incredible relief, obviously, for Kevin Spacey, who has undergone allegations here that started from anonymous sources that had him canceled from the House of Cards series all the way now till today. And he did win that prior case in the U.S. By Anthony Rapp, and then now the most serious criminal charges that he's been acquitted of. So this has been a very long road for him. And to have been canceled based on anonymous sources, immediately taken off the House of Cards show, and then presented with a bill for $30 million that he's now expected to pay, now years later to see this outcome is really incredible. And for Kevin Spacey, really going forth, taking the stand and testifying, confronting the allegations and prevailing, it is a great day for him in clearing his name.
As a celebrity lawyer, perhaps you can give us an insight into, you talk about the commitment of Kevin Spacey through this trial. Our arts and entertainment correspondent, who's been following it from the start, has said he has arrived at court every day, hours early. He has gone in the front entrance and come out the front entrance every day to a bank of photographers and cameras from all around the world. What is it like to be a celebrity at the eye of the storm in something so serious?
Well, this is certainly not the attention that anybody wants, and it's been toxic to his brand. And I think him coming into court like this publicly and not going through some secret entrance that might have been made available to him shows that he is standing tall and wanting to confront the allegations. He's subjected himself to, cross-examination on these allegations. And certainly he had to do this. This was the most important role that he has played in his life. And not to say that he was acting on the stand, because clearly he can't do that. There's no script and there's no director, and most importantly, there's no retake. He was there in person telling his story. So now it's really a matter of reclaiming his career, reclaiming his name, because although the accusers were granted lifelong anonymity, he was not. He was named, he was exposed, and now he has been acquitted. And he carried that presumption of innocence, of course, with him the entire time, but now he has been acquitted, and hopefully he can move past the allegations.
Yeah, how hopeful are you that he can revive his career? Obviously, there is this trial here in the UK where he has been found not guilty of sexually assaulting 4 men, not guilty on all charges made against him. But in the United States, he has faced similar accusations and been in court again, found not guilty. But this is an unfortunate back catalogue that he will now carry with him. Can he revive his career?
Absolutely. He is a very popular actor and, of course, very talented. And so he has also been able to, continue on here, I think, through these allegations. I believe he can recover from that. I believe that there's an audience waiting for him. And the fact that he has undergone all these allegations, but again, it's 20 years past. And questions about whether it was consensual on some of these, not necessarily whether it happened, but whether it was consensual. So I believe that he could move past it. The challenge that he and producers face is making sure that nothing like this is even alleged to happen again, because it would be a major distraction to the project. And of course, the producers have to make sure cast and crew are safe. So I imagine when he does return to work, there would be some plan in place to make sure that allegations like this don't arise because he's not put in positions where these kind of interactions could occur.
One of the defence arguments put forward by his team during this trial was that Kevin Spacey had been tried by social media. It's worth viewers casting their mind back to when these allegations first started to surface. It was at the height of the Me Too movement.
Well, of course, and we saw the immediate reaction to that, and I understand, the history there of why things needed to change in society, but now the course is corrected now to being more skeptical and saying that allegations of things that allegedly occurred 20 years ago should be looked at more carefully, and that we carry a presumption of innocence, and we want to see some evidence. And rather than just jumping to the conclusion because one or more people say something that automatically it must be true. So obviously very serious allegations. The accusers are entitled to respect and also entitled to be believed, but we do need to take our time on these things because the damage that's done cannot easily be repaired. And again, it's the function here of the system where the accusers are granted anonymity, but the accused is not, also needs to be taken into account.
Christopher Melcher, a celebrity lawyer, speaking to us from the US. We really appreciate your time this morning, LA time, reacting to the news that today a jury has returned its verdicts on Kevin Spacey, the actor found not guilty on all 9 counts of sexual offences. We will continue to follow that story here on Sky News. We are at Southwark Crown Court. We understand that Kevin Spacey has left the court via a side entrance to avoid the assembled camera crews. You can see there are so many of them there. We've actually got a head-in shot, such as the tight, packed-in nature of all the camera crews. They're waiting for Kevin Spacey's legal team to come out from court to make a statement on his behalf. We have our arts and entertainment correspondent, Katie Spencer, there for us. She is in that assembled press pack as soon as somebody comes out. I'm just hearing, actually, that Kevin Spacey may have left by a side entrance, but he is expected to come out of that courthouse to speak in a few moments' time. So I understand that we will be hearing from the actor himself, Kevin Spacey, with regard to the breaking news this afternoon that he has been found not guilty of sexually assaulting 4 men. Right, while we wait for the appearance of Kevin Spacey and his legal team, we will take a quick check on the weather.
Warm memories wherever you go.
To fly.
The weather, sponsored by Qatar Airways.
Well, the unsettled conditions are going to last well into August, which is only a week away. Plenty of showers and rain. Today, mostly cloudy, wet and quite windy, especially to end this afternoon. Much of Northern Ireland and eastern Britain, though, will be dry. Ireland probably won't see more than a few patchy, drizzly outbreaks by then. The UK will see evening rain clearing across England and into Scotland overnight with patchy drizzle, low cloud and extensive hill and coastal fog moving in behind. Ireland is going to stay rather murky and damp. Cloudy skies mean it's going to remain quite warm for most of us, but it will be windy, although western parts will see the wind easing later. Scotland will see early rain clearing into the northeast tomorrow morning, but will stay rather dull and damp overall. Southern England, quite grey and drizzly as well, but cloud elsewhere will slowly break to give sunny spells and a scattering of showers. It's going to be mostly warm and quite humid. Central and southern Scotland and the southwest of England will brighten up later, but there'll be little change elsewhere.
The weather, sponsored by Qatar Airways.
You are watching Sky News. Coming up, we are expecting to hear from the actor Kevin Spacey, who today was found not guilty on charges of sexual assault. Kevin Spacey cleared of all charges. We are expecting the actor to make a statement in central London imminently. Stay with us. More now on our breaking news this afternoon. The actor Kevin Spacey found not guilty of all charges of sexual assault. The Oscar award-winning actor was accused of 12 offences, including sexual assault and indecent assault, against 4 men between the years 2001 and 2013. The trial was taking place at Southwark Crown Court. It lasted almost 4 weeks. The actor denied all of the charges made against him. It took the jury just over 12 hours to reach their verdict. Well, I'm joined now by celebrity editor and showbiz columnist Kelly Allen for reaction to this breaking news. Kelly, we are expecting a statement from Kevin Spacey outside Southwark Crown Court, so I may have to interrupt you. But it's probably not a surprise that he's going to address the cameras because he has put himself front and centre every day, going in and out the front door in full public view. He wanted to tackle this head on.
Yeah, he really did. I mean, he has sort of said his world exploded with this trial. And when the verdict came in, he broke down in tears. But I guess now he's sort of had his day in court. He's worn a ring throughout the trial on his left hand that had engraved on it in Hebrew, "This too shall pass." So now he's sort of feeling it's come to pass. I'm sure he'll want to speak and say how he's felt about it. I mean, the prosecutors described the trial as making him feel small and diminished and worthless. I mean, it's had a grave effect on his career. He was, a double Oscar winner, one of our most loved stars, the lead of House of Cards, sort of Netflix big show. And he was sacked from that, edited out of All the Money in the World. So all his work sort of dried up. He hasn't been on screen. He hasn't been working. He's had to sell his mansion in LA for $8.5 million to cover legal charges. So I think it's had this sort of grave effect on his whole career and his life. So I'm not surprised he's going to want to come out and speak about that and comment about it now that he's been found not guilty.
Yeah, he was very open about the effect that this trial had had on his life in court, talking about the mental toll it's taken on him. And as you said, the financial toll, because we do see high-profile celebrity court cases and we assume that they are wealthy enough to cope with them. But Kevin Spacey was very open about the fact that he was running out of money. Not only had this cost him his career, but it had cost him his fortune.
Yeah, that's going to be, I mean, the trial in the UK is expected to have cost over £1 million for him in legal fees. Then he has US legal fees on top of that. It was mentioned earlier that the House of Cards production team sued him for £25 million because they sort of felt it was a breach of contract, this trial coming up, being arrested. And he's lost the appeal to overturn that. Now, it isn't clear if he's actually handed over that money, but all that has taken a real toll on his finances. And then, of course, when you're not working, there's no money coming in. I suppose that's the next thing. Will he be able to rebuild his career despite being found not guilty? There's sort of like, will he be seen as too tarnished by Hollywood to get the roles and sort of get back into working again? I'm sure that's what he'll want to do.
Yeah, he'll want to, won't he, Katie? Because he has been working more under the radar than he's been used to before all of this happened. We're used to seeing him in blockbuster films, Oscar award-winning films, in House of Cards on Netflix, one of the most watched series on that streaming platform. And he has continued to work, but not to that level of success. What's the feeling you get? You're in that world. What's the word on the showbiz street about a potential Spacey comeback? Is that a viable option, do you think?
Well, I'm not sure we expected this result. I'm not sure we expect this result today. It took me certainly by surprise. I wasn't expecting to hear anything. So I think it's probably too soon to think about roles and comebacks. That's what he's wanting. But he lost his publicist. He lost his agents when this all happened. He only had a manager that he's had from 2016 who stood by him. But I would imagine their next steps would be thinking, how do I get work? What to do? Because he hasn't been offered those big high-profile jobs. And I'm sure he would want them. He would want to come back. There hasn't been any discussions about what's going to happen with the old Vic. He was creative director there, and some of the offences related to his time there between 2005 and 2013. But it was something that I know from people who in the industry that worked with Vic, he really loved being a part of and was quite proud to be a part of. So I don't know whether they'll welcome him back or whether that'd be something he'd want to return to.
Kelly, we are looking at a live shot on our screen. Eagle-eyed viewers might have just seen our arts and entertainment correspondent pop up in front of those microphones and wave. She's seen Kevin Spacey's legal team just behind the doors that you see in front of you at Southwark Crown Court. So we are expecting them to come out imminently, and we do understand that the actor himself will be with his legal team to make a statement. So I'll continue to talk to you, Kelly, while we wait for that. I may have to interrupt you. You know how it works, Kelly. But just in terms of Kevin Spacey and his reputation and career, we have to point out that not just not guilty here, but he has been found not guilty in the United States as well in cases he has faced there, civil court cases. But all of this emerged at the height of the Me Too movement. And such was the fervour to root out those who were doing wrong in Hollywood and in the entertainment industry as a whole. He was very much a victim of that himself.
Yeah, at that time, there was a lot of people coming forward. There was a lot of high-profile actors being called out. We spoke earlier about sort of his team saying it had been a trial by social media. And I think we're sort of seeing the after effects of that now, that lots of people were called out in social media. And now when they've actually gone through the legal proceedings, you know, that there's sort of going to be, there's be a lot of discussion about the knock-on effect of this, on Kevin Spacey's career, and also the mental toll on him. I mean, it's been going on for several years. He's sort of been fighting back. I mean, he has always denied these charges. He's repeatedly said he was innocent. And said the 4 men were incorrect, 3 for he didn't understand their reasons, and the 4th one, I think he blamed intoxication. So today he's had this non-guilty verdict. I'm sure he will say more about it when he comes out and makes the statement of how he felt about it and why these charges and the reaction to sort of the result that he wanted to obviously get in court.
Yeah, such a high-profile case involving, you know, one of the most famous actors in the world. The judge did say to the jury, you know, he commended them, saying it can't have been easy for them to be involved in this court case because it's been like living in a goldfish bowl. Just, it's worth reminding people that, you know, this is taking place at Southern Crown Court, small area of southeast London, but the whole, press from around the world have been zoomed in on this trial. Such has been the level of interest.
I think that's it. And I think nowadays being on a jury must be harder than ever, because especially in a high profile case like this, because people are going to have preconceptions about Kevin Spacey. They're going to have watched him on TV. They're going to have watched him in films, and they have to set that to the side and sort of listen to the cases as presented by defence and by prosecutors and make a decision based purely on what they hear in court. And I mean, not look at things like social media, not talk to people. And, you know, it's a lot of pressure because it's someone's life, it's someone's career, it's their livelihood, it's, you know, their mental health. So you want to make sure you get it right. It's an incredible toll for anybody to take to sit in a jury of cases of this sort of magnitude.
And Kelly, just remind us of the effect this had on Kevin Spacey's career. Obviously, we talked about the fact that, you know, he didn't make any more high-profile films. He was forced to leave House of Cards in terms of that was a streaming series. That continued without him, even though he was the main character. The back catalogue of Kevin Spacey films, what happened to that in terms of, you know, he was so well regarded, Oscar award winning. Oh, hang on a second, Kelly. I'm being told, I can't see him yet, but this picture that we're seeing might be on a delay, but I'm reliably informed that Kevin Spacey is just about to come out of those doors. Bear with me, Kelly.
Okay, thank you.
Well, unreliably informed, it seems, Kelly. Such is the nature of live TV. I'm being told that Kevin Spacey did come towards the door, but moved away from it. So we will continue to talk until we see him appear through that door. I'm going to trust my own eyes and keep an eye on this screen while I talk to you, Kelly. And yeah, talk to me about the back catalogue, because obviously so famous for film, TV and theatre as well, of course.
Well, that's it. Yeah, I mean, who could forget his incredible performance in The Usual Suspects? I mean, it's the one that sort of really sticks in my mind as like Kevin Spacey's one of his greatest. And as we said, like House of Cards, he was replaced as a lead. And then even sort of more recently, there was All the Money in the World, this big, you know, high profile film. And it was reshot at a great expense to remove Kevin Spacey from it.
Kelly, here he comes. We're going to hear from Kevin Spacey after being found not guilty today on all charges at Southwark Crown Court.
I imagine that many of you can understand that there's a lot for me to process after what has just happened today. But I would like to say that I'm enormously grateful to the jury for having taken the time to examine all of the evidence and all of the facts carefully before they reach their decision. And I am humbled by the outcome today. I also want to thank the staff inside this courthouse, the security, and all those who took care of us every single day, my legal team, Evan Lowenstein and Lucy, for being here every day. And that's all I have to say for the moment. Thank you very much.
Well, a short statement from Kevin Spacey there. He started by saying it's a lot for him to process. And Kelly, you could understand that. He's been in court every day for a number of weeks. It's been going on for a year. He's going away to process that. I think everybody will be processing this. You know, this is one of the world's most recognisable actors, accused of awful things, sexual assaults, today found not guilty by a jury.
Yeah, I just thought there, I mean, he looked sort of emotionally drained, and probably just exhausted by sort of the toll of going to court every day, having to sort of defend himself and not knowing what the outcome is. I mean, he did say previously he wouldn't fight a court case that he didn't think was worth fighting. So I think probably what has pushed him on has been his sort of belief in himself that he didn't do anything wrong. But yeah, it just, I mean, it was quite humbling. He was obviously, you know, thanking his team, thanking everyone in court. It was quite sort of a humble sort of response to it, saying that he's, you know, he's grateful for the result. And I think that's probably it. There'll probably be, as you said, time to sort of reflect on it and think about it and more. But today he's just sort of, I'd say he's thankful that he got the result he so desired. I mean, we can see the footage of him leaving now and he's smiling and probably it just looks like a man who feels relieved.
Kelly Allen, showbiz columnist and celebrity editor, thank you so much for coming on to Sky News to react to that breaking news this afternoon that the Oscar award-winning actor Kevin Spacey has been found not guilty of sexually assaulting 4 men in the period between 2001 and 2013. The jury taking 12 hours and 26 minutes to acquit Spacey of 7 counts of sexual assault, 1 count of causing a person to engage in sexual activity without consent, and 1 count of causing a person to engage in penetrative sexual activity without consent. The actor denied all charges, saying the allegations against him were madness and a stab in the back. Well, let's cross now to our arts and entertainment correspondent, Katie Spencer, who is outside Southwark Crown Court, where the actor gave that short statement a few minutes ago. Katie, Kevin Spacey saying it's going to take a while for him to process all of this. He has been at court every day of this trial, and as you pointed out earlier on, sometimes hours before proceedings began.
Sarah Jane, I think I've lost comms to you, but I'll just talk to you a little bit and just add to that. Look, this whole case has been a strange and surreal insight into the world of celebrity. You may now see we've gone from having 20, 30 photographers, banks of broadcast cameras to everyone, as we're speaking, sort of taking their microphones away because Kevin Spacey has gone. As he left his taxi, absolutely surrounded by photographers wanting to get that final picture. But this case has had so much media attention on it. Again, an insight into the strange celebrity nature of this case as well. We noticed that actually in the corner, distance away from us, a few members of the jury were smoking as we were waiting for Kevin Spacey to come out. We can now know because we a dedicated reporter that we sent in from the New York Times followed as one of Kevin Spacey's team then took the jury members inside. They went and met Kevin Spacey, shook his hand. Kevin Spacey was in tears and thanked them. But again, it's these things that you do never see happen in court, this weird insight into how perhaps celebrity has had an influence really on how people have perceived these claims and the attention that has been on Kevin Spacey when these claims were made, and now really the focus on whether or not these claims perhaps may or may not have been brought if this was someone that was not Kevin Spacey. I think questions will certainly be asked now of the CPS to really ascertain whether or not this should have come to trial overall, because we now know all of the 9 counts that he faced, he has been found not guilty to. The 4 men that made those allegations, no convictions whatsoever. And now Kevin Spacey, having had a whole year waiting for this to come to trial, unable to work, his reputation absolutely in tatters over these claims. He now has to try and figure out where he goes from here, whether or not he can resume his career.